You remember the conversation clearly. They said it. You know they said it. But now they're looking at you like you've lost your mind, telling you that never happened, that you're remembering it wrong again, or you're too sensitive, or you're always twisting things. Here's the unsettling part. After enough of these conversations, you start to wonder if maybe you are the problem. Maybe your memory really isn't reliable. Maybe you're really overreacting. That feeling, that slow erosion of trust in your own perception has a name. It's called gaslighting. And today we're going to break it down. What is it? What isn't it? And how do we start trusting ourselves again?
Welcome to Nerdy Psychology. Break it down with a little curiosity. You'll be curious, stay kind, keep your mind nerdy.
Hi nerds, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Angel, a licensed mental health practitioner, and this is Nerdy Psychology, where we break down human behavior in a nerdy, science-based way with practical tools that you can actually use. Gaslighting gets thrown around a ton online. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not, and that overuse can actually make it more difficult to recognize the real thing when it's happening to you. So today we're going to define it clearly, look at how it actually shows up in relationships and friendships and families and workplaces. And stick around until the end because I'm going to share one question I teach clients to ask themselves that cuts through the confusion faster than almost anything else. So, what is it? Gaslighting is a pattern of behavior where someone causes you to doubt your own memory, your own perception, your own judgment, usually to avoid accountability or to maintain control. The name comes from an old film where a husband manipulates the gaslighting in their home and then insists his wife is imagining the flickering when she notices it. The important word here is pattern. A single disagreement about what happened isn't gaslighting. People misremember things all the time, and that's just part of being human. Gaslighting is a repeated, consistent strategy where your reality is being rewritten on purpose. Often it can be paired with phrases like, that never happened, you're too sensitive, you're crazy. In my work with clients, one thing I notice over and over is that people experiencing gaslighting rarely come in saying, I think I'm being gaslit. They come in saying things like, I don't trust my own judgment anymore, or I feel like I'm always the problem in every conflict. A few patterns I see constantly is the client who starts recording conversations or saving texts, not out of suspicion of the other person exactly, but because they no longer trust their own memory of what was said. The client who apologizes for being upset before they've even explained why they're upset, because past experience taught them that their feelings will be dismissed or twisted around them. The client who describes a partner or parent as not that bad really, in the very same session where they describe behavior that is, clinically speaking, quite concerning, because gaslighting has blurred their ability to accurately judge the severity of what's happening. So let's get nerdy for a second. Gaslighting works because of how human memory and social trust are built. Memory isn't a video recording. It's reconstructive, meaning every time you recall something, it's slightly malleable, slightly open to influence. Researchers studying memory and suggestibility have shown that confident, repeated assertions from trusted sources can actually shift what someone believes that they remember. Gaslighting exploits this normal cognitive vulnerability deliberately and repeatedly. There's also well-documented connection to what's called the coercive control in the relationship research literature, a pattern where one person systematically restricts another's autonomy, isolates them from outside perspectives, and undermines their confidence in their own judgment, often gradual enough that the person experiencing it doesn't even recognize it as abuse until much later. And chronic gaslighting has measurable effects beyond just the relationship itself. It's associated with elevated anxiety, self-doubt, and in some cases, symptoms that overlap with complex trauma responses, because the nervous system is essentially being kept in a constant state of uncertainty about what's real and what's safe. So, what does this actually mean for you? It means if you ever felt like you're too much, too sensitive, always misremembering, that feeling may not be accurate reflection of you at all. It might be the result of a pattern someone else created. Your confusion isn't proof that you're unreliable. In many cases, confusion is actually the expected predictable outcome of being gaslit. This also means healing isn't about becoming a more accurate rememberer. It's about rebuilding trust in your own perception, often with outside support, because gaslighting specifically targets the parts of you that would normally catch it. I want you to think about this for a second. Is there a relationship in your life where you constantly end up apologizing, even when you started the conversation feeling certain that you were right? Do you find yourself keeping evidence, texts, screenshots, notes to prove things to yourself after a conversation just in case you start doubting it later? And when you talk to other people outside that relationship about a specific situation, does their reaction tend to be surprised or validating in a way that feels different from how the person involved reacted? In order to help us really understand gaslighting, I think we should unpack some common misconceptions. Myth 1, gaslighting only happens in romantic relationships. Not true. It happens in families and in friendships and in workplaces and even in larger group dynamics. Anywhere there's a power imbalance and a motivation to avoid accountability. Myth 2, if someone disagrees with my memory of something, that's gaslighting. Genuine disagreement or differing perspectives aren't gaslighting. The defining feature is a repeated, deliberate pattern aimed at making you doubt your reality, not this honest difference of recollection. Myth 3, gaslighters always know exactly what they're doing. Well, some do consciously and strategically, but gaslighting can also be deeply ingrained relational pattern that someone learned without being fully aware. And that doesn't make the impact any less real, but it does matter for how recovery and boundaries can be approached. Myth 4, if I were smarter or stronger, I would not have fallen for it. Gaslighting is effective specifically because it targets trust and connection, not intelligence. Some of the most insightful, capable people I have ever worked with have experienced gaslighting. So what can you do about it? Start documenting in real time. Keep a private note of conversations or incidences as they happen while the memory's fresh. This isn't paranoia, it's building an anchor so that you can return to it later. Get outside perspective. Talk through specific situations with trusted friend or family member or therapist who isn't involved. Gaslighting thrives on isolation, so an outside reality check is one of the most powerful tools available. Use the certainty check. Ask yourself, am I actually unsure of what happened, or am I unsure because I was told I should be? That distinction alone can be incredibly clarifying. Practice naming it internally without confronting pressure. You don't have to confront anyone to validate your own experience. Simply naming it, this feels like gaslighting to yourself, is a legitimate and powerful first step. Set boundaries around the conversation pattern, not just the topic. So instead of relitigating what happened, you can say, I remember it differently, and I'm not going to keep debating my own memory. This protects you from getting pulled back into the spiral. So I do want to mention that people's perspective and memories are based on their experiences, their past, and the filters that they use. Information that they deem is important, they may hold on to. Information that maybe isn't important, it may filter through. And so a lot of times we may have very different perceptions of the same event, but that doesn't mean that someone is trying to take away your own reality. It's just their reality was perceived through their own lenses. And it's really important to have those discussions and make that determination, because people come in a lot of times telling me they're being gaslit. And sometimes they are, but sometimes it's not. It's just a difference of memory. It's a difference of perspective. It's a difference of how the other person saw and interpreted that event for themselves. I want to talk to you about Sam. Sam came in convinced that they had terrible memory and overly sensitive personality. Both things that they had been told repeatedly for years by a family member. But when we started having Sam keep a simple private log, just brief notes after difficult conversations, within a few weeks, a pattern became undeniable on paper that they hadn't seen in the moment. Sam started running specific situations by one trusted friend outside the family and began noticing how consistently that friend's reaction differed from what Sam had been told to believe. It took time, and it wasn't a clean, dramatic turning point. It was a slow rebuilding, conversation by conversation. But eventually, Sam stopped apologizing first, started trusting that gut. Wait, that's not what happened feeling, and was able to set firmer boundaries around how those conversations would go moving forward. This episode is sponsored by my workbook, Your Next Chapter. If you're working on rebuilding trust in your own perception after a difficult relationship, this workbook includes exercises for strengthening boundaries, understanding manipulation patterns, and reconnecting with your own emotional clarity. It's designed by me as a clinician to be something that you could actually use, not just read. The link is in the description below. Have you ever caught yourself documenting a conversation just to prove something to your own memory later? What did that experience teach you about trusting yourself? Leave it in the comments below. If this episode resonated with you, I would love it if you'd hit the like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need it. And if you know someone who's been told one too many times that they're remembering it wrong, go ahead and send this their way. If you constantly doubt your own memory and feelings about one specific person, that doubt may say more about the pattern than it does about you. Trusting yourself again is possible, and it usually starts with one outside perspective and one honest conversation with yourself. If today's conversation resonated with you, I think you will really enjoy my episode on how to stop attracting toxic people, because it builds on what we talked about today, and it will help you understand that patterns that make us vulnerable to relationships like this in the first place, and what to do differently going forward. And as always, stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy. See you next week. That's a wrap.
Be curious, stay kind.